of our other long-range models on the computers that we don't show you necessarily in the graphics. So let's check in on Hurricane Erin. As of Friday morning at 11 a.m., Hurricane Erin maintaining Category 1 status, winds of 90 miles per hour, pressure is up to 956 millibars, which is really good to see because days of past in the work week, we have seen the pressure down to about 930 millibars, 940 millibars. So the higher that pressure climbs, the closer you get to 1,000 millibars, that's going to be a good sign of weakening associated with this hurricane. And once you get winds that get below 74 miles per hour, that's when Hurricane Erin is going to go back to tropical storm status. But you do see that it transitions from that Category 1 icon into this low pressure icon. That's just because it's crossing a certain latitude in the Atlantic Ocean. This is still maintaining at least tropical storm status. In fact, Category 1 status. You see this Saturday stamp right here, still having 85 mile per hour winds. So it will still be a Category 1 hurricane as it continues to trek up to the north and the northeast. But right now it's simply just looking to be a fish storm. Areas of Nova Scotia up in kind of eastern Canada could see a couple of outer bands of showers, maybe a couple of gusty winds, but it's moving farther away from the U.S. and that's the main point that I do want to hammer in. If we can see another timestamp, let's see Sunday here, still maintaining 90 mile per hour winds. So Hurricane Erin should be a Category 1 hurricane for the foreseeable future, at least through the weekend, but it is interacting with some cooler water up here in the northern Atlantic. I wouldn't be surprised to see it really weaken. But you can see the top of the cone, and I forgot to change the key selection on this graphic. It does look like it's going to kind of meander by Iceland in the United Kingdom as it makes its way over to Europe. Maybe not even pose any impacts to those areas, but a couple of showers, maybe some increased moisture for some rain chances. Overall, not having any more impacts to the U.S. There are other areas of focus that we do have. So as of 8 a.m. on Friday, we get these updates on these potential areas of development every 6 hours each day. So 2 a.m., 8 a.m., and then 2 p.m., and then 8 p.m. Be sure to follow for the latest updates over the course of this weekend, especially with this system right here that you see outlined in red. So what we like to call these areas, we have these red shades, we have these yellow shades, and the orange shades. It's a big bowl of fruit in the tropics, and once you get a bunch of different colors and a bunch of different areas outlined, you know you're starting to approach the peak of tropics tropic season, especially here in the Atlantic. But when you have a red shaded area, that means one of the chances of development are 70% or greater. That's when you have a high chance of development. And this system right here following behind Erin, almost a direct path until it's really gotten to the northeast of the Caribbean right now. It looks like it's taking the same northward turn that Erin did just a little bit earlier. So that's great news for us in the U.S. But if you have any cruise plans to the island of Bermuda, not necessarily looking like the best case. 80% chance of developing over the next 48 hours. I would imagine it's later on Friday or really early on Saturday that we actually do get our next named storm out of this batch of showers and thunderstorms just here kind of now in the western portion of the Atlantic Ocean. But it does have a 90% chance of developing past that 48-hour window. So pretty good chances of developing with this. But once again, it's expected to make a northward turn. It'll probably have some impacts on the island of Bermuda, but how strong this system does form into category-wise for a hurricane is still yet to be seen. Let's check in on this little yellow X right here, and I've been referring to this as the itsy bitsy spider because the National Hurricane Center did outline this area as of Thursday afternoon, and they gave it a 30% chance of development right off the rip, which I thought was actually kind of crazy. Now we can't see anything on the satellite and radar imagery, 0% chance of developing. Don't even know why there's still a yellow X there. It was just kind of some pulse convection that happened in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It's not going to do anything, and if this even still is anything right here, it was moving over towards the east, so that's not going to have any implications for us in the United States. This is another area that I'm probably keeping the closest eye on because I know obviously Erin is continuing to move farther away. This other area that does have very high chances of development is going to move away from the United States, and it's going to kind of take that northward turn that Hurricane Erin did. But this area has a 40% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 50% chance of development past that 48-hour window as of Friday morning. So obviously not the most impressive chances of development, but still about a 50-50 shot as we go kind of into your extended forecast. And take a look at this shaded area. It is going almost directly to the west. It looks like this could very well pose some impacts in the Lesser Antilles, maybe northern South America. And if it moves into the Caribbean Sea, those sea surface temperatures are going to be pretty warm. It could definitely start to intensify, but the path past this is really anyone's best guess. So this is anything but certain if it's going to hit the United States, but it does have a general path that would run into some warm ocean waters that warrant keeping an eye on, but it's still yet to be seen if this is going to get its act together and develop. As of the 2 a.m. update that we got on Friday morning, it had a 50% chance over the next 2 days of developing and a 60% chance of developing over the next week. So the chances have gone down a little bit, and I imagine that's because it's kind of interacting with this dust plume right here that's really stretching over into the center of the Atlantic Ocean. As it continues to move over towards the west, it should kind of get out of that dust plume and run into a more conducive environment for development. So I would say of these three technically areas of development, 2 of them definitely have a good chance of becoming our next named storms. So we'll go into your 2025 hurricane names list for the Atlantic Basin. We've had 5 named storms so far, and Erin was the latest to take a name off that list. The F and G names are going to be next on this hurricanes list, and it looks like that red area will probably claim the name Fernan. I have been mispronouncing it all week. I've been doing some digging and watching other meteorologists and National Weather Service employees pronounce it as Fernan. So obviously it looks like Fernand. The D is silent. Fernan would be the official name, but I don't think Fernan is going to be anything to worry about. Then this next system that we were just talking about that's going kind of into the Caribbean and the Lesser Antilles, the name to claim after that would be Gabrielle. And then eventually we'll get into the second column of names, which is going to start with Umberto. The H is silent on that name. So you can tell I've been doing my research and kind of my syllable practice with all the pronunciations.